Happy Father's Day, all you dads out there. I got my rad dad hat on and I decided to come out here to the park today and make another video for you guys. And in today's video, I want to talk about how many treatments I do on my customers' lawns. And I'd like to hear from you as well in the comment section. Let me know how many treatments you do per year. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you what my treatment program is, what it consists of, how many times I visit my customers throughout an entire calendar year. So my treatment program consists of pre-emergent weed controls, fertilizer treatments throughout the summertime, but I visit my customers 6 times a year. So I end up going out to my customers' lawns about every 2 months on average. It's not exactly right at 60 days, but on average, it ends up being about every 2 months in between treatments. So 6 treatments per calendar year. You may be asking yourself, is 6 treatments really enough to get good weed control and good results on your customers' lawns? Well, I have found that if you take your time, don't rush through your yards, really do a good job with your pre-emergent treatments throughout the fall and winter, that you really don't have that many weeds to backpack throughout the summer months. But it's all about just taking your time, letting your customers know that you're not rushing through your yards and showing them that when you're there doing the treatments. And as far as the time of year goes for my treatments, I'm just going to start off with January. So you obviously have a window of opportunity when you're applying your pre-emergence. So let's just take my first round. I call it round 1. I apply that throughout the months of January and February. So you have between January 1st and the end of February to get round 1 down, which is what I call the winter pre-emergent. Now I do a split application of prodiamine in round 1 and 2. So I take the rate, make sure you first of all read the labels of all the products that you apply. But prodiamine works great for crabgrass, at preventing crabgrass. That's the main thing that I really focus on throughout my winter pre-emergent months, because I don't want crabgrass in my lawns in the summertime. So I do that split application of prodiamine during rounds 1 and 2. So I take half of the rate and I do it the months of January and February. And then March and April, I mix up that other half of prodiamine. So it's a split rate. I take the entire amount that you are allowed to spray throughout that calendar year and I just split it in half. So 2 rounds of prodiamine between the months of January and the end of April, essentially. Now you can mix in other post-emergent products while doing that. There's 3D herbicides that you will spray on whatever broadleafs that you have in your yard. Just as far as your broadleaf weed control and your post-emergent weed control goes, it just depends on what kind of weeds you're seeing out in your yards. Now, my yards are dormant in the wintertime. So when I'm applying my winter pre-emergent throughout the months of January all the way through April, my yards are all brown. So when your lawns are dormant, you can kind of hike up your post-emergent weed control as well, mix it a little stronger, and you're not going to damage your yards by doing that. Especially if you're treating Bermuda yards. You can spray some of the hottest mixes on earth and your Bermuda will always end up coming out in the spring. You have to be careful when you have those thick zoysia yards, and especially with St. Augustine or centipede grasses. Those are very sensitive to chemicals, so be very careful. Make sure you read the product labels before applying anything on St. Augustine and centipede. I'm going to the shade to film the rest of this video. Hot dog, it's hot on this Father's Day. So I've talked a little bit about my rounds 1 and 2. That takes me January through April. Well, I pick up round 3 at the beginning of May, and that's when I start fertilizing my yards. I put out granular fertilizer, and I usually go with the higher nitrogen fertilizer to help green things up. Now, the main 2 grasses that I treat are Bermuda and zoysia. So I live here in Alabama and I deal with warm season turf grass, but I typically stay away from centipede and St. Augustine grass because they are treatable, but they're pretty sensitive when it comes to chemicals, and I've damaged some of those lawns before. Right here in central Alabama, we we're not in the transition zone, but we kind of are. I mean, we have pretty cold winters here in the Birmingham, Alabama area, and we really don't have a lot of centipede and St. Augustine yards anyway. Now, once you get down to Montgomery, Alabama, and then further down to the Gulf Coast, that's where you start seeing more centipede and St. Augustine grass. But I just treat Bermuda and zoysia lawns. Now, my round 3, I start with a granular fertilizer, and then I carry around a backpack with some backpacking products to help knock out whatever weeds that I see. But lawns are still coming out of dormancy here in May. Sometimes our yards don't fully green up until the end of May, and sometimes even halfway through June, there's still some brown spots. But I try to get out to my customers as quick as I can to get fertilizer out on their yard. And along with regular mowing and watering practices from the homeowners, grass is usually fully greened up by the end of May. Some of the weeds that we see this time of year are nutsedge. We always have a pretty rainy spring season, so nutsedge starts popping out in May, and then by the time mid-June gets here, it's just full-grown nutsedge. So I always have a product to help nut grass. Now over here, I don't treat this area. I'm at a local park now, but we've already got some crabgrass popping up here, Dallas grass clumps and things like that. So just depending on what sort of weeds you're dealing with, you may still have some broadleaf weeds that are hanging around. Just go with whatever product that you're used to going with. It's going to be different for whatever zone you live in. But whatever weeds you're dealing with, do some research and find a good post-emergent product to backpack your yards after you fertilize. You never want to just fertilize a yard and not treat your customers' weeds. So one of the main reasons they hired me is to get rid of their weeds. Now, I have never seen a yard that is completely weed-free. In my 15 years of lawn care experience, I've never seen a perfect lawn. I can always find at least one weed in somebody's yard. Now, that doesn't mean that my pre-emergent treatments are not working. It just means that it's virtually impossible to get a weed-free lawn. If you really take the time and walk through somebody's yard, you're gonna find one weed. Now, one of the problems that I try to avoid is dollar spot. Now, dollar spot is a fungus, but as long as you get out with some fertilizer, some high nitrogen fertilizer, and apply it to those lawns, fertilizing alone will help bring out this dollar spot here. It'll produce new growth from the roots, and then you'll end up mowing out that dollar spot there. Now, I could treat dollar spot with a fungicide if I wanted to, but I feel like I can get just as good results just by applying fertilizer to fix that dollar spot. Okay, so my 3rd and 4th rounds are all fertilizer. It's granular fertilizer treatments while backpacking weeds. I do that from May all the way through the end of August. So you might be asking yourself, well, do you have that many customers to keep you busy throughout that whole time? And I do. So I have enough customers to consistently keep me busy working Monday through Friday on a consistent daily basis. Now, you're gonna have rain days. So what do I do on a rain day? Well, I don't wanna go out to someone's yard and apply chemicals and fertilizer if it's just 100% chance of rain. Although the fertilizer needs to be watered in, it's just a bad look if I go out there and I'm working in the middle of a rainstorm. So what do I do on rain days? Do I take the whole day off? Well, I can. You know, I'm not being productive, so I can just sit at home and not do anything on rain days. But I like to do a little quality control and just drive around the neighborhoods where my customers' yards are. And even if I just take a look at their yard from the street, I'll be able to tell what kind of weeds they're having and if my weed control is working. So I may go back maybe 10 to 14 days after I have done a neighborhood. So I'll swing back by and just kind of glance at the yards just to make sure my weed control is working and effective. So this brings us to round 5. At the beginning of September, and I do this throughout the end of October, I spray Spectacle, which is a fall pre-emergent. In my opinion, the fall pre-emergent treatment is the most important treatment of the entire year. We deal with Poana. POA annua, POA, whatever you want to call it. Everybody kind of calls it something different. But if you don't get a good fall pre-emergent treatment done, our yards are covered in POA that winter. So what I do is spray a product called Spectacle, and I do a split application of Spectacle. So I start the 1st of September and I go through the end of October with that first split treatment of Spectacle. Again, read the label, and the labels of all the products will give you a maximum amount of product that you can spray throughout a calendar year. So you can take that amount and split it in half and do a split application. So I spray Spectacle basically September through the end of the year. So that brings me to round 6, and that's pretty much the exact same thing as round 5. It's Spectacle, and then I change up the post-emergent products as well, just all depending on what kind of weeds that our area is dealing with. I mix up a post-emergent product in Spectacle. Now I have a large 400-gallon tank, spray tank rig, that I just mix up 400 gallons of product in that, and I just go to town. I just hit all of my customers. So that is my entire program, 6 treatments a year, rounds 1 through 6. So this brings me to a couple more points. That's really not all I do. I mentioned earlier in the video that it's virtually impossible to have a weed-free lawn. So I have customers that call me in between treatments and say, "Hey Kyle, I've got some weeds in my yard. Do you mind coming back and respraying?" And yes, I do that. So we provide a free reservice program. We just call them reservices, retreatments. There's really no official name for it, but yes, I go out and I respray my customers' weeds if they have a large influx, or if they call me, I'll go out and do that for them. So on the surface, yeah, it's 6 treatments a year, but for a lot of customers, it ends up being more. It could end up being 7 or 8 treatments throughout the calendar year. Now, if you want to follow the same program, it works well if you apply your pre-emergence properly, and if you have good lines when you're applying your fertilizer. This treatment program works well. Now you can add in around 7 at the end of the year and apply some lime, granular lime. What lime does, it raises the pH level of the soil. And in my opinion, when your lawn has a higher pH, it just helps your lawn take in nutrients better. It even helps it take in the products that you're putting down better. So if you do a lime treatment towards the end of the year, around December, that following summer, it should help take in your fertilizer better. So when the lawn has a higher pH, it essentially just helps it take in nutrients better. Now, I'm curious what some of you guys do who also have a maintenance division. So on top of pre-emergent weed control and fertilizer treatments, you have a customer base where you mow their lawn and edging, and you're out there trimming shrubs as well. I'm curious how you guys manage your workload and how you schedule treatments in between your normal mowing schedule. So just leave me some comments below and let me know kind of how you do your program. I'm really curious about that. So that is essentially my workload for the entire year. 6 treatments per calendar year, and that takes me January through the end of December. So if you're starting out a lawn care company and you're trying to figure out what the game plan is going to be and how many treatments you're going to do, I think 6 treatments per year works well. There are a lot of other lawn care companies that do 8 or 9 treatments, and some even go out on a monthly basis to do their treatments. But I think if you do a good job and you take your time in your customer's yard, 6 treatments a year will give you good results. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hope all you dads have an excellent Father's Day. You may not be watching this on Father's Day, but at the time of filming this video, it is Sunday, Father's Day. So hope all you dads are having a great week out there. Get to work, do good work on your customers' yards. Have a great day.